The Truce Foundation was also gifted with resources to create another statue to the Olympic truce, to publicize the truce, and that sits proudly at the U.S. Olympic Committee Training Center in Colorado Springs, where we unveiled it during Olympic Day. So we find philanthropists and friends and colleagues coming together, hearing about what we do and offering to be a part of it. And indeed, Georgia Dunn was very quick to remind me of Karifta, and that's one of the strong reasons that we're here today, because friends hear about it, we get together, we create excitement. We also had a cocktail party in New York City about 2 months ago to announce the award that we are presenting this evening, and Mr. Kingsley Bean attended from the Turks and Caicos Tourist Board, and we had some ambassadors from the region who work at the United Nations, and we're very excited by having the attendance of Andrew Young, who was mayor of Atlanta and saw the games come to Atlanta. So they recognized that this was a good opportunity to support the region, to participate in an activity that promotes the potential of sport for peace in the world.
Talking about the Friends of the Truce Foundation, as you know, it's a non-for-profit, non-commercial, volunteer organization, and we do rely on a lot of our friends and allies and supporters to keep this message going, and we hope to bring in more people, more organizations, more corporations all over the world and at every stop that we make.
Well, I wanted to know how many people are involved in the Truce Foundation.
We are growing in number. Colleagues and friends, I should say that we have a group of advisors who I contact via email. In this day and age, we can communicate very quickly. One of the former officials of the U.S. Olympic Committee is now a professor of sports management, Kurt Hamakawa. He's a good friend, a fine gentleman from Ethiopia, Fekru Kidani, who was very much the Secretary of State of the International Olympic Committee until retiring a few years ago. We have friends at UNICEF. We have friends in the private sector. I have serious interest from scientists, cultural leaders, educators. My sister's a grade school teacher. She loves it. And she talks about it to her students. We have an array of people who hear about it and want to be involved. I keep them informed, and we invite them to participate wherever they are, especially to take the oath during the openings of games wherever they are.
Both of you being a part of the Truce Foundation, which is basically about sports. Are you athletes yourselves?
No, I am not an athlete. I should be, but I'm not. I'm the laziest. But I watch soccer, football, and I think that's about the only thing I can watch. I can participate in that by yelling for the best team in the world, but...
Well, I love to rollerblade, and I rollerblade in Central Park, and I rollerblade to Central Park through the streets of New York City on sidewalks and byways, and I miss people with their dogs and taxi cab doors, and it's quite an obstacle course. There's no Olympic event yet, and otherwise my other sport, I guess I jump to conclusions. That's one of my favorite sports, and I excel at that.
That's okay. Every so often on the down low, I run down the boss. I run down the boss. Yes, I'm just as athletically inclined. Yes, I wanted to, let's see, we have the organization that restarted recently, and you've been going out all over the place, all over the world basically, with your message of truce, and it's mainly at sporting events. Do you think of widening it to more than just sports?
Well, we'd like to grow the foundation. Right now we find that the inspiration of sporting events taps so nicely into people's ideals, and we involve their ideals that way. Through negotiation or discussions at the sporting events, as we had in Torino, we can find dialogue among cultures and among peoples. At our Torino event, we had the presidents of Nigeria and Liberia represented. We were able to talk about world affairs. The Olympic Games brings together people, and there's nothing more that the Olympic Committee would like than to have serious discussion occur during the Olympic Games when people are together in a good frame of mind. They follow the fair play on the field, and perhaps they can take a few hours, heads of state, other leaders at the games, to meet with each other, perhaps discuss, maybe just shake hands in public. So I think the opportunity of participating in international games right now is what we're going to continue to develop. We will be going to Beijing, China next year, and expect that to be a most unique experience. And at that games, we're going to consider making an award for cultural understanding between the Chinese and the American people. The Metropolitan Opera of New York will be performing at the opening ceremonies in Beijing along with Chinese opera artists. A portion of a large recently released a piece called The First Emperor. And we intend to involve the Metropolitan Opera in our event, recognize their efforts and the Chinese opera efforts together as a means of cultural exchange. So we do wish to bring the fine arts more into play as they relate to sport, but recognize that there are many opportunities for promoting our concept of truce and inspiring people to make decisions of their own.
So how can I be a part of this to go to Beijing?
You are more than invited and welcome to come to us. I mentioned before my friend Kurt Hamakawa is a professor of sports management, and just the other day he emailed me, I'm taking a group of students to Beijing and we want to be a part of your program. Whatever you need, if you need support, protocol, technical support, or distributing literature, we're there for you. So we welcome your enthusiasm to participate with us. I think what's very important, and I think Louisa would agree, is that we remain non-commercial. We don't take any resources from any corporations. We don't want to be a front for some other agenda. We want to remain true to the message that we promote, and we're willing to do that on a shoestring and keep our organization very virtual and very flexible to engage people as they are able to be a part of our team if they can, and not to expect them to participate more than what they're able to do on a volunteer basis, and maintain the purity of our message. We don't want to be promoting a product or be beholden to a major sponsor in any way.
And back to the question. So are you based in New York, and is that how you became a part of it, Oisa?
My first encounter with the Truce Foundation was actually in 2005. Peter Tuchansky, I mentioned his name earlier, of the DCIU, introduced me to Hugh, and that was how we were able to sit down and bring in President Obasanjo and President Johnson Sirleaf of Liberia to Torino in 2006. So that was my first encounter, and I've worked with them with the foundation since then as a volunteer. And I think the message is strong. The more people we get, the diverse culture, diverse backgrounds, it's a big happy family. And I'd like to use this opportunity to welcome you, Yasmin, starting with you, and the people of Turks and Caicos to be a part of our foundation. We would love for you to be a part of carrying this message of peace and conflict resolution all over the world.
And I should advertise a website, I suppose, at that point. And it's easy. It's www.trucefoundation, all one word, .us. trucefoundation.us.
Okay, could you tell us why is it Truce Foundation US?
Well, when the Olympic truce was revived in 1994, the International Olympic Committee created an International Olympic Truce Foundation. And I had the idea that perhaps we need a national truce foundation as well. There are national Olympic committees all over the world, and I thought maybe the United States should have its own national truce foundation. I was invited by the International Olympic Committee to make a presentation at a seminar in Olympia, Greece, about a year and a half ago on creating a national foundation, at which point I met with heads of Olympic committees from Israel, Iraq, Rwanda, and many places, and interested them in thinking about trying to create a national foundation of their own in support of the Olympic truce, and have been in consultation with them since. So it's a homegrown effort, as was the International Olympic Committee in 1894 when it was reestablished for the first games in 1896. And it takes some perseverance, but a good idea catches on quickly in these days with the use of internet and email and communications, and thank you for showing such interest in hosting us this afternoon to your program. So we're not holding a patent on this idea, and should the Turks and Caicos wish to have a truce foundation, I'd be more than happy to talk with any enthusiasts out there and partner with them, because we are virtual as well as professional, and we welcome enthusiastic participation, and when that happens, wonderful things happen, as you'll see tonight when we make our award presentation.
I'd like to ask, is this part of the United Nations?
No, it's a distinct organization. We are inspired by the Olympic Truce, which is sworn every 2 years at the United Nations prior to each Olympic Games. And it is the most supported UN resolution in history. Every country supports the Olympic Truce resolution. And in fact, the last time it was sworn prior to Torino, every single 192 member states co-sponsored that resolution, which makes it the most supported resolution in United Nations history. So we're inspired by what the United Nations does to swear the Olympic Truce, which essentially calls on countries to enable safe passage and participation during the Games. And one thinks about it in this post-9/11 era, it's almost a call to anti-terrorism, because it's calling upon all of us to be brave, to do the right thing during these major international events, to show up and to let the paths be cleared so that we can all participate safely and return home safely. So it has more force than ever.
You have been watching In Depth with Yasmin Rigby Blues, and I'd like to say thanks to our guests, Oiza Adaba and Hugh Dugan. And we'd like to invite you to become a part of the Truce Foundation.